Okay, this is everything's not okay. They got him. They finally got Ashton Kutcher, I think. No, they can set boundaries for themselves that we were never allowed to do. I mean, I got someone threatened to sue me once because they didn't want to do this. Seen in a certain way. That's scummy as. Like it's one thing to defend your friend when they've been accused of something heinous and you don't think they did it. But when you think they did it, when you know they did it and you don't care that. Christina Ricci didn't name names, but she didn't have to. Because the moment she posted that message, the internet already knew who it was aimed at. People we know as awesome guys can be predators, she said. And when she warned that defending AB is a crime, fans immediately looked at one name, Ashton Kutcher. So sometimes, people we have loved and admired do horrible things. They might not do these things to us, and we only know who they were to us, but that doesn't mean they didn't do the horrible things and to discredit the crime. People we know as, quote, awesome guys can be. It's tough to accept, but we have to. If we say we support victims, women, children, men, boys, then we must be able to take this stance. Continuing on, she says, unfortunately, I've known lots of, quote, awesome guys who were lovely to me who have been proven to be. I've also had personal experience with this. Believe victims. It's not easy to come forward. It's not easy to get a conviction. Again, this is Christina Ricci's Instagram stories that she just put out. Now I'm pertaining to everything going on with Danny Masterson. What do you guys think? What started as a cringeworthy apology video has now spiraled into something far darker because the man who once played America's lovable prankster is suddenly at the center of a Hollywood reckoning, tied to a convicted predator, linked to disturbing old footage, and surrounded by powerful friends who are now facing the law. So what's the deal with Ashton Kutcher and Monty's writing letters to a judge? Well, their co-star from that 70s show, Danny Masterson, was recently convicted of and 2 women back in 2003. His first trial actually resulted in a hung jury. So a mistrial was declared. Prosecutors tried him again, and he was convicted in his second trial. On the other hand, friends of Masterson's son also wrote letters for the judge to consider, including Ashton Kutcher and Mon, who generally spoke about his good character, referring to him as a role model and an extraordinary husband and father. In fact, dozens of letters were submitted on behalf of Master, but none of these letters really did anything because the judge went with the maximum possible sentence of 30 years to life. From the woman who died the night of his date to the footage he refuses to talk about to the rumors that Diddy might expose him next. What Christina Ricci exposed wasn't just an opinion. It was a spark. And now the fire is catching. Ashton has been friends with Diddy since 2003. And in 2019, during an interview when he was asked about Diddy's parties, he said, well, there's a lot I can't tell. His first case with Ma Kunis was when she was 14 and he was 20. Ashton also wrote a letter to a judge after his co-star, Danny Masterson's son, was arrested for R-wording 2 women in 2001. Ashton's girlfriend at the time, Ashley, was found. He had a date with her that same night. For years, Ashton Kutcher and Ma Kunis were seen as the perfect couple. Funny, grounded, scandal-free, the kind of Hollywood pair you could actually root for. But in 2023, all of that shattered, and it only took one letter to do it. Christina Ricci has been in the industry since she was a child. So, I can't even imagine the amount of things she's seen, been around, been through. And last year, she did an interview with a Hollywood reporter. She talked about how she styled her clothing and how she never dressed a certain way because she didn't want to get that kind of attention. And even without dressing that way, she said, I always felt that kind of attention in a very threatening way. So, I'm sure for Christina Ricci, it's probably triggering for her to not only find out that Ashton Kutcher and Monty's wrote the support letter, but that they came out with their video. That's why I love what she wrote, because she addressed her points without having to criticize them, and it allows them to read this with an open mind. When Danny Masterson's son, Kutcher's longtime friend, and that '70s show co-star was convicted of multiple counts of SA. Most of Hollywood stayed silent. But not Ashton, not Ma. Instead, they wrote glowing letters of support directly to the judge, pleading for leniency. The actor Danny Masterson's son, best known for his role on that '70s show, has been sentenced to 30 years to life in prison after he was convicted of 2 counts of Brianna. But what we know is that he was found guilty on 2 out of 3 counts and that the judge has ruled that he should serve 2 consecutive 15-year sentences. So, therefore, the 30 years to life in this case. What we also know is that Masterson had pled not guilty to these events. These accounts of that happened between 2001 and 2003 in separate incidents. But what we also know is that the assistant district attorney for Los Angeles spoke after the ruling was made and after his sentencing was done. Reinhardt Mueller saying that they do believe that this was the appropriate sentence. Those are the words that he used there and said that the judge pointed to, quote, the manner in which the offenses were committed. Let that sink in. A man found guilty of violating 2 women was being defended by 2 of the most public advocates for victims. Ashton called Masterson's son a role model. Mila said he was like an older brother. They described him as a moral compass, someone who kept them away from drugs. And they submitted those statements during sentencing, not in private, not quietly, but officially on the record. After a conviction, the backlash wasn't just loud, it was immediate. People didn't just feel betrayed, they felt disgusted, not only because of the letters themselves, but because of who they came from. Ashton Kutcher, the man who co-founded a charity to fight child exploitation, was now using his influence to defend a convicted predator. It didn't make sense. Or maybe it made too much sense. The court, victims, well, Ashton Kutcher and Maloney's are under fire for writing character references for a friend of theirs after he was convicted of assault. Danny Masterson, who appeared alongside the pair in that '70s show, was recently sentenced to 30 years in prison for assaulting 2 women. Danny's family reached out to us and they asked us to write character letters to represent the person that we knew for 25 years.